So I'm on this Facebook group, a gardening group, and I was just one day scrolling through and this picture came up. And I thought to myself, oh boy, these are going to be hard to transplant. But it turns out she was growing microgreens. How cool is that? I love microgreens. They're easy to grow, they're delicious, they're fabulous. Didn't think of anything about it until 2 days later when she posted this picture of her microgreens. Now those are toast. They look like they got run over by a tractor. And at that point I feel sorry for her because she really made an attempt to get microgreens. So we got to talking and I told her I would make a YouTube on how I grow mine without big fancy equipment. So Margaret, this YouTube video is for you. Alright, so first we need to deal with containers. This is a standard microgreen container. That's what they sell you. It has a bottom tray with no holes, and it has this tray that has the holes in it. Can you see that? So it drains out, plus you can water it from the bottom. These are fantastic. Usually you fill the soil in, you put the top tray on top of the soil. Well, you put the soil in and seed it, put a top tray on top, and then you can weigh this down. Most seeds have to be weighed down. These are great, but they're huge. I mean, that's a lot of microgreens to eat, plus they're expensive. How I like to do mine is in a casserole dish. Same thing, it doesn't drain, so the watering is a little bit more difficult. You have to pay attention. But I have this casserole dish. I would put the soil in, the seeds, and then I have another one that fits on top so I can weigh it down. This is already heavy, so I don't have to put anything in it. This works with smaller casserole dishes too, which is good for starting to experiment. Plus they come at thrift stores for a couple bucks. But you can do other things too. That's a little ice tray, plastic cup, ice tray, ice cream. So you fill it with soil, put the seed in, put something on top, put a golf ball in it to weigh it down. You can use candle holders. The little containers are really nice for single servings, for weighing it down. For single servings, you can have it next to a salad, serve it with a salad, and people can cut off their own micros. Kids love it. You can use an egg holder. But what I use, and what we'll probably do for this video, these are the containers where stuff comes in. I forgot, berries, strawberries, something like that. They already have 4 holes on the bottom, so I need to put them in a tray that can catch the water overflow. And I collected several of these so I can weigh down 1 and 2. Basically I'm growing 2 trays and I use one as the top to weigh both of them down at the same time. So containers are flexible. If you're not in the microgreen business and you just grow it for yourself, adapt to what you have. There's no reason to spend any money on it. One thing I'd like to mention about containers when it comes to the height is make it between 2 and 3 inches. You can of course always use a deeper container like a coffee cup, but then you need all this soil in there. That's really not necessary. The 2 to 3 inches is all you need, and then you can go ahead and snip them right along the edge of the container because the soil is to the top, and so we'll just cut the greens off at the very base if we can access it with the 2 or 3 inches. Now we need to talk soil. I don't use just any garden soil or whatever soil from outside because I mostly grow inside. I don't want to have the bugs in it. So I store this on the screen porch, and this is an omri soil. That's the organic for soil. And it has a peat moss in it. It's dry and loose. They love growing in this. It's easy for the roots. It's easy to sprout. Best soil I had, I think I got this at Ace Hardware. It's upside down, but I'm not sure. Must have been Ace. And then a little hint on soil. This is our old coconut oil container. This soil has already been grown in 2 times. You can see the dried up old sprouts in it. I do reuse my soil without fertilizing it or anything else. For microgreens, most of what they need to grow is in the seed. So you can go a long way reusing your soil at least 2 or 3 times. Saves money. So this is the soil that comes straight from the bag. and this is the recycled soil. I will do 2 of these plastic trays with the same seeds, one with recycled soil and one with new soil. We'll see how big a difference it makes. The stuff is really fluffy right now and really dry because I let this dry out really good so I don't get any gunky stuff in it when I reuse it. What I'll do is just add water so it saturates and then let it sit for a while. If it's not wet yet to where you can press a little bit of water out, I'll just add more water. This is going to take an hour or 2 and then we'll check it out. So with the containers filled with soil, we're ready to put seeds in. I buy my seeds in bulk and then store them in mason jars with the lid on so they stay dry. You always have a small amount to seed right away that just has the lid on, and the rest I take out of the bulk package, put it in a mason jar and vacuum seal it. Technically you can sprout anything, but really by far the easiest is cress and radish. It's, in my opinion, also the tastiest. It's really the only one I'm eating anymore. Peas are really nice. They get nice and sweet, but they take longer. It's a little bit more difficult. Cress and radish it is. If you start out with something, get radish seeds. You could technically buy seeds in a feed store or buy seeds from a seed package, but the amount you need, it's so much cheaper to buy in bulk and organic than it is for, I don't know, 89 cents or $1.25 for a little package of radish seeds. Also, when you buy organic sprouting seeds, they are guaranteed to sprout. And you know, they haven't been treated in any way. Kind of funky. I don't want to do that either because I'm not growing the whole plant. I'm basically eating what's in the seed. So I want to have good seeds for that. The soil is ready. This one is the reused one and it did good. If I squeeze it, not much coming out. And we'll just squeeze it a little and put it in the trays. I have marked this one for the reused soil. And boy, that's a mess. And now the other one is from the store and I accidentally put in too much water, but that's great because it's not lost. You just do the same thing. You squeeze it out so it's just a handful of moist soil and put it in there. All this also depends what kind of soil you use, but it should be very well hydrated, but not too soggy wet. Even if it is too soggy wet, it's no problem in a container that drains. I will have these have the holes. I have these in the solid bottom tray, so it can drain out there. If you don't have a bottom tray, use a baking sheet or anything else where you can drain it in. Okay, both trays are filled. You see they're filled to pretty much the top. I could have done a tiny little bit more, but I was out of soil. And this is the new soil, same thing. When you squeeze it out, leave a little bit in there. Don't squeeze too hard because that's all the water they're going to get until they are sprouting and can get the weight off. So now let's get them seeded. Okay, well, I'm going to put the cress in both of these. And I'm not very particular about this, except I don't want too big splotches. So I'm shaking this from the jar right now, but it's really better to distribute it when I have it in my hand. So let me seed this and then I can show you how densely I seed these. While seeded in, press the soil firmly before you seed. You don't want to have any hills and valleys and dimples because then it makes it a little bit harder to distribute this evenly. Now we'll set this tray on top of that tray. And then the empty tray on top of that. And then we have to weigh it down, and all I did was fill some jars with water, put a lid on. There we go. And then I'll put in my case, a dark t-shirt over it because you want it covered completely dark until you see how they start sprouting, and I'll show you with the 24-hour check-in what this is gonna look like. Putting this on as well today. This is the radish microgreen casserole. This is just in a regular household dish. I'll put this one on top before I weigh it down. Actually, this is already heavy enough to weigh it down. If you don't have matching things, take a piece of plastic. Usually old plastic bags like the Ziplocs work better than the cling wrap because the seeds start sticking to the cling wrap. And then put a towel over it and then weigh it down with something. But this works good. You will see on the edges where it doesn't weigh it down how different they are going to come up. Here we go. They've been brought to bed. They're resting under a t-shirt in the dark. I will shut the light off in a minute. And another hint is our water is so hard here in Florida. If you can harvest some rainwater, keep it in a jar and use this to water your microgreens. It's good for indoor plants too. So it's been 24 hours on these greens, and let's see what happens. This is the radish. Because it's clear, you can see. They are starting to sprout, and let's check on the cress as well. They are sprouting too. Now don't panic. We'll leave the weights on for another 24 hours. If we let them sprout like this without weighing them down, they don't root very well. So these little sprout roots, they need to now get anchored in the soil. And I will check back tomorrow. Alright, 48 hours into it, and here's the big reveal. Let's start with the radish seeds. They're right here. Look how much they sprouted, but I want to show you. The top layer is suspended, and that glass dish weighs 2.5 pounds. That's how strong these little guys are. So let's take this off, and they're looking good. Here are the cress seeds. I'm going to take these guys out. And they, whoops, that was loud, I'm sorry. So, top layer off. Nice. But we have the bottom layer underneath this. And they're nice too. Of course, they had a little bit more weight on them, but they will come popping up. So now is the time where we have to move them under light so they can green up and grow some more. In winter, I do this on a screen porch to where they get morning and evening light, and that works just fine. I don't want to do it outside. Like I said before, I reuse the soil, so I don't want to get bugs inside. But these will not do well in a Florida summer outside at 95 degrees and 90% humidity. I mean, it's cress and radish, they just don't work. So we have an indoor light setup for that. It's not very expensive, and I'll show you. So one of the lights I have is it clips, and it has just a regular switch. It goes for one for each light. They swivel. I grow this underneath it right now, but I can use it for microgreens as well. Another setup, they are herbs right now, are these really lightweight, this is terrible, I don't know if you can see this, really lightweight LED lights. They have a plug and go, so you can string them in succession. I should probably lay this out on the table somewhere. And we'll clip them on, and it's just with a light switch as well. I turn it on in the morning, turn it off in the evening. Let me put the little guys under the light now. Okay, so here they are on the shelf. I elevated them so that they are about 5-6 inches from the top light. They could go a little closer, but that's fine for now. And the cress ones too. Look at the little roots on the cress. I did not water them. That soil is still perfectly moist, so there's no reason to add any water to it right now. And I'm going to shut the lights off. It's evening, and then tomorrow they will be under the lights the whole day, and the transformation is quite awesome. There we go. This was their first day under the grow light, and they're turning out beautiful. That is the radish. This is the cress. The one on the left is the blue marked one. That's the one with the recycled soil. Other than height, I can't detect any difference. Actually, I would say the left one is greener than the right. And the height might be because it had the other tray on top and then the weight, and this one only had the weight on it, so perhaps they struggled a little more, but really it looks pretty much the same despite this soil being on its third round. Remember when I told you that when you weigh these down, my top dish didn't cover all the outside? So you can see here all around the outside edge, even though there were seeds, they are not coming up as nicely as the rest. That's because it wasn't weighed down the same. Same along this edge. So it's important you weigh down your seeds. But these are ready to eat. But I'm going to give them another day. They get taller and I'll get more out of it. Just for comparison again, the root structure, if you have a clear container, it's really cool because you can see the roots. So the right one is the new soil, the other one is the recycled soil. And honestly, there isn't a whole lot of difference. They look good. Okay, watering. So my soil was pretty wet to begin with. And as of right now, it's still very watered. I do not need to water these. Usually I don't have to water them at all until I eat them. If you do, don't pour it on top of the plant like this. You may get mold. Just go gently on the edge and give it a little bit all around. If you have a clear see-through kind of container, you can lift it up and you can tell pretty good if the water's going down to the roots, if you did enough or not. Because this is a solid glass dish, there are no drain holes, so I'm keeping a keen eye on how much I water. Beautiful. The second day under the light is almost over. Everything looks wonderful. I will start eating the radishes now, but they will be good for another 1 or 2 days. And the same with the cress. Remember, the left was the recycled soil, the reused soil, and the right was new soil. Both worked out just fine. Don't get bullied into buying expensive stuff. Now remember the other container options. This is the little ice cream. It works. You just have to be more careful with little containers because they dry out quicker. Here is the candle holder. And then there also was the egg holder. Aren't these cute? For single serving, you put it next to the plate, you can cut it off. Kids love it. Start out small, use a small tray like one of these, the crest trays, this size or even half that. Experiment, see how it works, and then step up because it's pretty easy to get addicted to it. And it's wonderfully nutritious. Great thing to do microgreens when it's too hot, too cold, when there's snow on the ground. If you can't grow anything because you don't have a garden, grow some microgreens inside. All you need is a light. The rest is readily available in most people's cupboards.